can people who miss out could always see it. So let's just talk about the next time and finalize this. Next time, the best would be like now.
For me, or who? Sorry.
Is everybody comfortable with this hour right now?
Yeah.
This is fine. This is totally fine for me.
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay, so until other people want to join, that's my second request. Don't forget, Peter is willing to help, but he wants to, to get a larger group.
Okay.
So one of you has to write up some type of invitation. He likes it that it comes from you.
Okay.
So I don't know who's the best writer here, but
definitely Kayla or Gabrielle. You're both legitimate writers.
I don't. Wait, do we have to include other people?
You don't want to? I thought it would be...
Like 20 other people?
No, I don't believe 20 will come. Probably, realistically, it wouldn't be more than a few. I don't think... I just said 20 just as a figure of speech. But from my experience, what he wants to do is to send it to all the alumni to see who comes up.
Okay.
Most people will not come to something like this.
Okay.
You look worried. Kaya.
Me?
Yeah.
No. I'm just thinking.
Okay, so who takes it upon himself to write?
Okay.
I'm happy to do it. I just know that it's not... there are better writers on this group chat than I am, but I'm happy to do it if you want.
Well,
I don't
what
know
do you
how to
think,
use
Gabriel and
that.
Kaya? Who's the best?
Kayla.
You know what? We can do a competition and then choose the best.
Kayla's the best for sure.
No.
Actually, I don't know. Gabrielle's an amazing writer too. I can't.
I don't know. Guys, this is an email. Why are we talking like this?
Okay, so I between Kaya and Gabriel, you'll choose, right? We can write it together. Write it down.
Okay.
Okay, listen. I want to tell you my plan and ask your opinion. First of all, I thought at least in this meeting and maybe the second one, I want to go sort of zoom out and try to give a bigger picture of, I call it, what is the goal and the purpose of the Jewish people. Sounds a little bit big, but and how it connects to the idea of Sugia. So it's sort of a zoom out about perspective about everything, all the details. So that's something I want to do today, if it's okay with you. And it will be mostly reading Torah and discussing it. And then the meetings after, we can go to two avenues. One is, again, that you ask in advance for sugyot, and you have to suggest sugyot that you are interested in. The other one is doing something totally different that I thought about doing all the time with you, and we never had the chance, and that is Midrash Konoha. Did I tell you what Midrash Cinema? Did I tell you about what I do with cinema and Midrash?
Midrash Konoha.
Basically, it's watching, not the whole films, but watching classical films and relating them to Jewish texts. So it's like it's reading film with Jewish textual eyes.
Wow, that's
so
awesome.
For example, Modern Times, Charlie Chaplin together with Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Or Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver with Shimshon, Samson, the hero. So I thought, I don't know if it's interesting for you, then we might do at least one or two of these.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's totally not Sugia. It's a different type of thing. But
Right.
I thought about it because some of you asked for recommendations about films. I forgot to prepare, so I hope by next time. So I understood that you're interested in understanding film. And
Yeah.
what I basically do in these type of meetings is learn how to analyze films and how to analyze Jewish texts and how they can interact between them. So you're interested?
Yeah.
I do like Sugia though. I hope we continue doing some Sugia stuff because I love that.
Yeah, of course. I didn't mean instead. I just thought, to spice it up. But again, it's very important for me, and I need time in advance to prepare that you suggest topics. By the way, I can give you one that I'm just working on now. Maybe it's interesting for you too. It's about homosexuality. So I don't
Like
know
what about it?
the Jewish perspective on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's something I'm doing now with the yeshiva. Maybe for you it's not so relevant because you don't have an issue with it, while people in Israel have. So
That's not true.
What?
That's not true.
You have issues with it, or because basically
Like our group or like in our communities? You mean?
with you?
Oh.
No, communities. I understand. Probably there are problems. Anyway,
Yeah.
if it's interesting for you, I just threw it out now because it's something that I'm working on. But it could be anything. Smartphone for kids is also something I'm working on now. Anyway, so but I think this week and the next week we'll be doing the Zoom out stuff, and you have enough time to think about other sugyot. Okay?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want to do is basically take a journey from Abraham until Moses, including the desert, to try to figure out what is the basic theme of Torah. Okay, first of all, is there a basic theme? And if there is, I'll give you a spoiler. There is, according to my opinion, of course. What is it? What's now? We spoke a little bit about pieces of it, but what I want to try to do is go through something more systematic in terms of learning it through Torah, and I hope that I'll convince you that this is something which is not there's a lot of problems of sometimes you take a piece of Torah and make out of it a big thing, but then you'll find something else which is the opposite. So because Torah is so complex, so I want to try to convince you that this is a systematic type theme that goes all through. Okay, so I'll share my screen now. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Technology is amazing. It's just like we're back at Beit Shmuel.
Sorry for joining late.
Hi, Evan. Welcome. At the end of the meeting, we're talking about next time's meeting. Is this hour is good for you?
Yeah?
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
But who said, somebody said that they can't join because of the hour.
Oh, Talia Dovas.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to ask her if it's a usual problem or not? Okay, we'll continue this on the WhatsApp. Okay, so we're starting this journey with the original journey, and that's Lech Lecha, right? So, who wants to read?
I can read.
Go for it.
Okay. The Lord said to Abram, "Go forth from your native land and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and curse him that curses you. And all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you." Abram went
No,
forth.
wait. Let's stop.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the beginning of the Jewish people, right? So what do you see here that is important as a message for what we are, for our identity?
There's a value in the idea of like parents and your father. Like he doesn't say go home from your house. He says from your father's house, which I just think is interesting.
What do you see in that?
It's just immediately when he's giving Abraham like the first commandment in the Torah, basically, he's referencing the father, and like as we know, like in the 10 Commandments, there will be this value of respecting your parents. I just think the Torah doesn't use words accidentally, and it's interesting, like the whole midrash about Abraham destroying his father's statues, whatever. It's interesting that he says, "Go from your father's house." That's like something you would tell a child, but Abraham is an adult at this point.
But is this compatible with the 10 Commandments?
No, it's telling him to disobey. Probably.
It's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So how do you see this? Why is this the beginning of the Jewish people? Why leaving your father's house, leaving your country, leaving your homeland? Why is that the initiation of the Jewish people?
Maybe because like Abraham's former native land and his father are like not part of the Jewish people, so he needs to like completely, and like those are the most important things in Judaism, I think, like the land and like the people that surround you, your family, the community, and maybe like he needs to like separate himself from those things that were not like the Jewish land, the Jewish family. Does that make sense?
But if his family is not, nobody's Jewish at that time. Is somebody clicking? Because I hear all the time clicks. Is somebody's computer is clicking? I don't know. Do you also hear the clicks?
Yeah, I hear that too.
Yeah, I do. Sounds like someone's typing.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody's typing. But you don't look like somebody's typing. Everybody show your hands. No, it's that I don't believe you're typing. Maybe there's a background noise.
It could just be lag on the microphone because we're in 5 different places.
You know what? Mute yourself for a second, Sam. You know how to mute yourself?
Yep.
He's the guy. No,
It's not me.
Okay, let's. Can you live with this sound? Does it bother you, the sound?
I'm fine with it.
Let's just ignore it.
So, you said that because his family is not Jewish, but nobody is Jewish at that time. So, anyway he goes, nobody will be Jewish.
Yeah, but he needs to like separate himself
from
the 2 most important things that become like the two things that become the two most important things in Judaism in order to like start the Jewish nation. Like he needs to separate himself from what he thinks is the land, what he thinks is family, and like create a new like connection to a new land, a new family. I don't know.
So, but why does he have to disconnect? Why can't he do it at this there? The same. I mean, he's going to Canaan. In Canaan, there are idol worshippers, and if you know the following stories, Avram sends his servant to find a wife for Yitzchak, for his son. He doesn't want him to marry within the people of Palestine at that time. So it means that even he dislikes or not feels religiously connected to the people he's living with, even worse than the people he came from, because he sends his. You remember the story of him sending Eliezer?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I mean, why is he sending there if he thought that it's so bad there? And even on the contrary, you might say it's like trying to get married within some type of a Jewish family that he's trying to send there, and not marry a shekhtah, a Palestinian shekhtah, and when he does it. So it doesn't sound like his origin is worse religiously or than where he's going to.
Right.
Mhm.
But I think you're right. But just let's focus a little about it. He does need to separate himself, but it's not because of the specific content. And it's also a message for all generations. Again, we're not talking about an episode, a historical event. It could be historical, it could not be historical, and it's not important. The Torah doesn't come to tell us historical facts. The Torah comes to tell us something that is meaningful for generations. So if we have to see Avram as someone that shows us, the beginnings of the Jewish people, we have to try to understand what is relevant to us from what he did.
Mm.
Anybody have an idea?
What's relevant to us
Yeah.
based on what he did?
Well, let's say God tells you, and Vayomer Hashem El Kaya, go from your land, from your home, or Sam, go from your, look at it from this point of view. Why would it be important to tell you?
Because to start,
sorry.
it's like similar to what Gabrielle was saying. Like in order to start, you need to totally separate yourself from your past life, and you need to separate yourself from your place of birth, your homeland, your family, in order to create this blank slate, to create this new people, new religion.
Okay, so I'll just expand what you're saying. You have to get out of your comfort zone. If you want to be original, if you want to do something which is meaningful, then you have to be able to separate yourself. It's even more than separate. It's basically it's the first galut. How do you say galut in English?
Exile.
It's the first exile, the first Jewish exile. Paradoxically, it's an exile to Israel. But in the essence of it, we start with exiling. We leave the comfort zone, the place that we come from, in order to reinvent ourselves. And if you want to do something like that, you have to be a nonconformist. Okay? You have to do an active act of separation. Now, again, if for a moment we will talk Sugia, this of course comes in balance with what we learn in the Ten Commandments about respecting your parents and connecting with your parents. So it's two conflicting movements. But here, what is important is that we understand that to be Jewish means to be in exile, which means to leave your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the first element. Now, what is the goal? What
For who? For God?
What should happen when we do this?
When you leave your comfort zone?
Yeah, here.
Like ideally here, I don't.
But, let's first focus on this, okay? Go forth from your native land and to the land that I will show you.
Yeah.
What could God have said instead of this text? To
this land,
which land?
to Eretz Canaan.
To Eretz Canaan, right? He could have said to Eretz Canaan,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why does it say to the land that I'll show you?
Because he's kind of like going from one comfort, and God is expecting him to embrace another by leaving one. Like, so he's putting himself in the picture so that he gains his trust. He gains Abraham's trust. Maybe? I don't know.
I'm not sure I understood. I'm not sure I understood you. We're comparing. He could have said, go to Eretz Canaan,
Yeah.
and instead he says, go to the land that I will show you.
Because in the same sentence, there's like a parallel. It's like, go from your native land, from your father's house,
Yeah.
and then to this land, which is like a parallel to the native land, and then I is a parallel to the father.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just like, it's like a direct replacement of his comfort.
Okay, interesting.
I don't
Any
know.
other options? When Avram goes here, does he know where he's going?
No.
So that's a part of, if he would have told him, we're leaving here to go to.
Yeah.
That is moving, but it's moving with a concrete understanding of where I'm going.
This might be like off topic, but it's so interesting. I feel like with the people in Abraham's life, there's such a theme of not knowing. Like when so God tells Abraham to Lech Lecha, he doesn't know where he's going. When like Sarah gets pregnant, she doesn't know it's going to happen. And when Isaac is taken up on a mountain, he doesn't know that he's going to be sacrificed. And it's like God sets the stage for the Jewish people with this like sense of not knowing, and that like part of being Jewish is like not knowing.
I agree. I don't think it's off. That's exactly what we're talking about. If to be Jewish means to leave your comfort zone, to be able to reinvent yourself, the idea is that you should be able to put yourself at stake, to not know where you're going. If you really want to be creative, let's take if everything is planned out, then you can't really make a big change, and you're limiting yourself. If you're going on a trip to a place, so you already decided. If you have a vacation in the Bahamas, okay, so at that moment you decided that it's the Bahamas and nothing else. But if you really want to do something totally new, then you have to be able to put yourself in a situation that you don't know what the outcome is. I think I once told you a sort of a half joke that I say about myself, that I never do projects which have more than 20% success chance. Tell you that?
More than 20? No, yeah, I don't think so.
No. But that's
Okay.
not surprising, Udi.
Exactly. Of course, it's for you to have but you understand what's the idea behind it. If you're doing something that you have a 50% chance of happening, it means you're doing something which already exists in some way. There's something right now that is 50% of it. But if you're willing to go to a place where there's at least you don't know of a chance of how it will succeed, it means you're going to create something more new, more inventive, more creative.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is
like startups.
what?
Like startups.
Like
startup companies.
Yeah, exactly. That's startups. Now, most of the startups fail.
Right.
Now it's not. You have to understand. I'm not a genius that succeeds in the 80, in the 20%, 100%. No, I fail 80%. But you have to be willing to fail. If you're not willing to fail, then you didn't do something new.
Mhm.
So what you said now, Sam, is exactly. I think you're right. It is a motive. And by the way, also when Israel leaves Egypt, okay, they go into the desert, but they start wandering around. There's a big factor of unknown. Okay?
And that's almost like I feel like that's almost the scariest thing. It's like I feel like a lot of people would rather know at the beginning of a project that they were gonna fail than going through the whole project and not knowing. I feel like we're an information-based society. Like we know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. It's scary. Certainly scary. It's again, it's only one perspective of life. I don't suggest that you do everything based on this idea of 80% chance of failing. Don't run all your life on this base. But if you really, when you're doing something really that you want a bit to be meaningful, you have to be able to take this type of chance. Okay, so now let's go now to the second verse. What is the goal?
Make the great nation.
Make your name great.
Okay. And what's the goal of the nation?
To be a blessing.
What does that mean?
Not sure.
Read also verse 3.
Maybe is it kind of like the idea of like or legoyim, like a light onto the nations? Because like all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you. Maybe I don't know.
Exactly. So if you take verse 2, in a way, it doesn't contradict, but it juxtaposes verse 3. Because if the goal is, I will make you a great nation, that's very nationalistic, right? We want to become a nation. To be a nation is something important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're not universal. We're not global. We're not citizens of the world. We want to be a nation. And so that would be with a nationalistic flavor to it. But then comes verse 3 and says, yes, you have to be a nation. You will be a nation, but what's the goal of this nation?
So all the
You understand the tension here between the two sides?
Yeah.
Okay, some people believe that if you want to be somebody who helps the world, the way to do it is to become universal,
Yeah.
to serve the world. Many Jews in many centuries thought that. communistic and so on. But here, the idea is that you need nation to bless the other nations. Now, why is that? Why can't Avram just be this great missionary? Think about missionaries. A missionary doesn't try to, doesn't see himself as a part of a bigger unit. He comes and he starts to change people or nations or whatever. Do you understand my question?
Yeah.
Why does it? You're asking how it changes other nations?
Why do you need a nation if the real goal is that the families of earth would be blessed by you, right? If that's the goal, why do we need this?
Maybe because that's like one of the most efficient ways of making change, lead by example. So like by God creating this like exemplary nation, it's more efficient than for God to try to than to change like everyone all at once. Or it's more, I don't know.
No, I think you're saying something. You know what? I'll jump. I didn't think we'll get there today. Just a second. This is what. Okay, this is it before Matan Torah. Somebody want to read? Somebody want to read?
Rudy, can you send us this document?
Yeah, sure.
Did you translate it yourself?
No. It's from Safari. By the way, it's already on Sugia. Just today, I didn't want to start bothering you with the technology. So, who wants to read?
Yeah,
I can read again. No one else wants to. Starting from which one? 3?
Yeah.
Okay. And Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, "Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and declare to the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to me. Now then, if you will obey me faithfully and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples. Indeed, all the earth is mine." Should I keep going?
Yeah.
"But you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel." Moses came and summoned the elders of the people and put before them all that the Lord had commanded him. All the people answered as one, saying, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do." And Moses brought back the people's words to the Lord.
Okay, so this is the covenant. This is the basic covenant. We started with Abraham, and now we are at Mount Sinai. What do you see here that relates to what we talked about in the verse that we just talked about in Lech Lecha?
Well, he mentions like kingdom of priests and a holy nation. It's like it keeps like singling out this nation in relation to all other nations, right? So it's like his like special possession. Doesn't he use the word possession somewhere? Yeah, my treasured possession among all the people. So it's like,
so that sounds very nationalistic, no?
yeah.
So it's not even like, this is like not a real word in English. It's not nationalistic necessarily. It's like peopleistic. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like to reference a nation that isn't like totally a nation yet, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know.
What's the difference between peopleistic and nationalistic?
Because I feel like national, there's like an implication that there's a place. Like nationalism is, I feel like it's usually based on geography. Like German nationalism was German, and like American nationalism is people located in America. But these people don't really have a place obtained yet. I just find it interesting. It's like this sense of nationalism for people that don't have a place. Like even Palestinians today, while they don't necessarily have a country, they still have a place that they're in. A lot of them. I just find it interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I never thought about this. Different. So, but how do you see this? Explaining or developing the questions that we are asking now. What would it mean in terms of the goal of the Jewish people?
Sure.
Let's zoom in on verse 5. Okay, you are going to be my treasured possession among all people. That's basically parallel to verse 2 that we saw before, right? The nationalistic side, the people side, as Sam says. But then let's go here. What is being special to God means? What does it mean for them to do? What should you be? What does it mean to be a kingdom of priests? What is the role of priests?
To serve God and to be an example. Like they're the leaders of the nation. They're
Yeah.
Yeah, Alan,
To do what God says. To do what He says. Like it's sort of like you're the favorite child. Like the favorite
Is
child.
that to be a priest? Is that to be the favorite child? What is the role of priests in the Torah?
Silence.
They like they're almost like the custodian of the temple and the Mishkan.
What does custodian mean?
It's like they like do that usually doesn't have like a super prestigious like connotation, but they perform the services, like they are making sure everything's in the right spot. And
they like keep the holiness of the nation, kind of. Like they're.
What would that mean? What do you mean by keeping the holiness? Not how, but what is the way that they do it to make the people holy?
Through sacrifices, and maybe do they teach?
What do sacrifices do?
They forgive.
What is the role of the temple?
to be closer to God.
To connect to God, right?
Yeah.
What do the priests do? They are sort of the intermediaries who take the people and allow them to connect to God by their work. So to be a kingdom of priests is not to have favorable. It's a task. The task is to make the world closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we go back now to what we said here, that's exactly the relationship between 2 and 3, right? The first part was, I will make you a great name, a great nation. That's what we saw there before. You will be mine. But what is the goal? The goal is to bless the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's very close to what Alan suggested before. There is a sort of I don't know if it's exactly the idea of a role model, but the idea that through their work, they can they can connect the world together with God.
Right.
Okay. Now the question is, what does it mean to connect the world to God? And that's what is the Jewish way, or the message of God through Abraham and through Moses? What does it mean to connect to God? Does it mean celibacy? Does it mean social justice? Does it mean piety? What is the essence of the content of this connection? Okay.
Right.
Now, let's read quickly the second part of this story. So Abraham, who wants to read? Abraham went forth.
I can. Abram went forth as the Lord had commanded him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot, all the wealth they had amassed, and the persons that they had acquitted in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they arrived in the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land as far as the site of Shechem, as the terebinth of Moreh. The Canaanites were then in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, I will assign this land to your offspring. And he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him.
Okay, so what's new here in this blessing to Abraham?
Here, I'll put headphones in, Tora.
What's the message here?
I mean, they were like the nation was assigned their new homeland, their new right, like their new body.
Okay, so the land, right? Until now, he went to Palestine, but in the first part, he doesn't talk about owning the land, right?
It's almost like Palestinians should use this verse from our Torah to be like, see, even 2,000 years ago, you guys stole the land. Like, it's amazing. We're like reading about how there were people already here, and it's such a hot issue now. Like 70 years ago.
By the way, they're saying this.
Yeah.
They are saying that they are the original country.
It's incredible.
But if we leave it a little bit now, the politics aside. So we have here, what's new here are two things. One is the land, okay, that I will give you the land, but it's more than just give you the land. Who shall I give?
Your offspring.
Your offspring. Because you could have said, I'm giving you, Avram comes, at verse 5, he comes with a lot of people, right? All the persons, it's like a tribe, or I don't know exactly how to call it. But God promises him offspring. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens just a few psukim later? Verse 10. Keep reading.
There was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land.
Why does the Torah tell this? What is it doing here? Again, is it a historical thing? Why is it important in this narrative?
Which part are you asking about, whether it's
This.
important?
I mean, we've learned all of this until here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's the big startup.
It makes me wonder, like, was it intentional that there was, did God make there be a famine intentionally so that they would go to Egypt? And then, I don't know, maybe once they're, like, in Egypt and they're away from the land, then it sort of makes them, I don't know, we'll read further, but maybe it makes them like have sort of like a desire, like a lust to go back to the land. It creates like a relationship by being distant, by being at a distance.
How long was he in Egypt for? Before he went back to the land?
Like 400 years.
No, 400 years is after
That was with
the
Moshe.
Jewish people go. We're talking here.
Just with Abraham.
This is just Avram. I don't know, really. It's a good question.
I don't remember.
I don't think for a long time. What I wanted to show, this is exactly, is this something, let's say it like this. When you finish this part of the reading, is this something that you would expect to happen?
No.
Is this your anticipation?
No.
What would you expect to happen?
You would expect the opposite, no?
Yeah.
God takes you out of your homeland, makes you do exile, sends you to this land that He promises you will be blessed, and so on and so on and so on. And what happens? 2 minutes later, there's a famine in the land. If I'm Abraham, I would say, where did you send me to? Why is this the land that you are promising me? A land that has famine? Now, I don't know if you know, in the Bible, there's a comparison between Egypt and Israel in terms of its social security. In Egypt, you live by the Nile. Okay? You have water, an existing source of water all the time. In Israel, you have to pray for rain. And the option of famine because of drought is very big. Just now in Israel, we are in the 5th year of drought. Now, today we have technology and we're able to, how do you call it, water, to clean water.
It's like the desalination.
You know, to take salt water and make it into drinking water.
Desalination.
So Israel is a leading empire in this. So today we have a solution. But basically, to live in Israel and to be an agricultural person in Israel is something very, very dangerous. And the possibility of having a famine is very big. So why does God do this? Immediately after He promises all these things. And not only that, what's the solution? What's the solution to this challenge?
Just to leave.
Another exile.
Yeah.
So in one chapter, we've had 2 exiles of the Jewish people. Is this something that tells us what's going to happen with the Jewish people 2,000, 3,000 years?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Should we be surprised that we are a nation that keeps on exile after exile? I'm not just talking from Israel. I'm talking exile to Spain, and from Spain to Germany, and from Germany or Europe to America and to Israel. We are an ongoing exile people.
Yeah.
And it's written in the first chapter that we meet the beginning of the Jewish people.
But I don't understand how that makes sense today. Like, how can you say that when you're, like, as you're, like, sitting in, like, a Jewish homeland? Like, how is exile alive in Israel?
Because it's an option all the time. I never forget the option that I could be kicked out.
But now it's like a self-inflicted one. It's not like it's being, like, imposed on you.
What do you mean?
Like, the exiles that we're talking about here are ones that have been, like, done to us. That we never, like, I don't know.
In this chapter, is it one or the other?
It's externally imposed.
That's on verse 10. But what's in the beginning?
But God took us out. It's not like we didn't just decide to get up and leave.
No, but it is, because Avram decided to hear the words of God. God didn't put a gun to his head.
I guess. I don't know.
So, no, I think you're putting your finger on something very important. There are two types of exile. There's one that that we decide on, and there's one that God decides for us, or history decides for us. But the important thing is now, is all I wanted to put into focus is that the connection between exile, goal, blessing, nationality, universalism it's a package that if you look at the Jewish people's history through this lens, okay, all the 3,000 or 4,000 years of Jewish history, you're going to see these motives coming again and again and again. Okay, Jews are the one of the major forces in any social revolution during the again 3,000 years. Jews are keeping on going, exiling, influencing their the place that they are, and then being exiled from that. Whether it's Spain, whether it's Germany, and the same way I'm saying about myself in Israel, and I'm suggesting to you to keep the option all the time about America too. Okay, it's there. It's a part of Jewish history. Will it happen? Will it not happen? Will it happen in our generation? Will it happen in 10 generations? Will it be a Mashiach? Are we at the final stage of the Jewish history that there will be no more exile? I don't know. I'm not saying that it has to happen. All I'm saying is that the perspective, that the idea that exile is a part, an important part of our identity, that's something very important. Now, why is it? We still didn't say it. This is just, right now it's just a fact. The fact and seeing that this fact is not something that just happened by chance over history. It's something that's in our basic DNA, in our embryo stage. We are programmed for this. Now, of course, that's just to tell the fact. Why is it? Why is it so important that this will be such an integral part of our life, or of our Jewish life? That's a question that we'll keep on reading. Okay? Do you have a little bit more koach, or should we stop?
I can keep going.
Yeah, I'm good.
Me too.
Okay, so let's just go a little bit.
It's just like really, it's so different. I feel like a lot of us have heard this story, and it's like hard to wrap your mind around it when you've heard it like the 80th time and start thinking critically about it. It's like, I feel like sometimes it's easier to think critically about a story you've never heard, because I like have so many preconceived notions about the story that it's like hard to think of it in new ways.
So here comes the message of the Lech Lecha. Be able to forget everything you've learned. I'm not joking. I'm saying this seriously. The same way we are bound to our habits and we're mentally bound. We are closed-minded in the sense that we are so used to some things that it's very difficult for us to. The idea of being critical, or even, I'll say even a stronger word. Do you know what iconoclastic means?
What word?
Iconoclastic. Iconoclastic.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Do you know,
What?
you know this word?
No.
It means idol destroyer.
Okay.
Okay, Abraham is the first, somebody who is able to tear down, to break the icons, the idols. And the problem for us is that anything The minute we freeze something in our life, it becomes an idol. What's the problem with the idol? That it's a freeze frame. It's not a dynamic God. And we have to be dynamic. And that's why Sam, what you said is very important. We have to be able, every time we look at a text, to forget what we know about it and read it from fresh. Don't make it into an idol. Break the idol. Okay? Okay. I'm jumping a few passages further. Who wants to read?
I can read.
Go for it.
Sometime later, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. He said, "Fear not, Abram, I am a shield to you. Your reward shall be very great." But Abram said, "O Lord God, what can you give me, seeing that I shall die childless, and the one in charge of my household is Damasek Eliezer?" Avram said further, "Since you have granted me no offspring, my steward will be my heir."
Okay, up. Let's stop. So we're talking now about 30, 40 years later, after the passage that we just learned. What's the story here?
Is this 30 years later?
Something like that.
Okay.
I don't know exactly, but it's more than 10. It's about 20 plus years. Remember what God promised him in the beginning of the last parak?
Yeah, Abraham is like, where is that promise, I guess.
He promised him an offspring, right?
Yeah.
He promised him to be a great nation. But what's happening here? Abraham says, I'm going to die childless. Mm-hmm. So what about God's promise? Okay, it's the same idea before. God promised him the land and how blessed he will be, and then comes the famine.
Right.
God promised him child, and he has nobody. Okay, the head of his household is the only person who's going to inherit. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the word of God came to him. Keep reading.
The word of the Lord came to him in reply, that one shall not be your heir, none but your very own issue shall be your heir. He took him outside and said, "Look towards heaven and count the stars, if you are able to count them." And he added, "So shall your offspring be." And because he put his trust in the Lord, he reckoned it to his merit. He said,
so, what is happening here?
It seems like God, maybe the reason why he didn't originally give him his offspring is because he wanted Abram to see what it means to have offspring from a much greater perspective, from a much greater picture, instead of it being like, you want a child? Here, I'll give you a child, and he has a few kids. It's, you want, like, I'm going to give you offspring, and offspring doesn't just mean like your immediate children, grandchildren. It means all that will come after you, as many as the stars. It's like infinite.
So, very good. How would you define the difference between promising you an offspring and telling you that your offspring will be like the stars? What's the idea of having the offspring like the stars? Is that just giving him a good feeling that he's going to have many kids?
No, it's like
telling him you're going to have 20 kids. What? Sorry?
It's like going back to that idea of like the nation. It's like the idea of like what the nation will become in the future.
Exactly.
It's not just you, it's like the whole nation, that like you're like the stem, you're like the seed, and it'll grow, like it'll be like a forest, more.
So that we're going back to the idea that it's not just seed or family or even tribe. It's going to be something in magnitude. It's going to be a major player in the world. Now it's interesting. Did this happen?
I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah, I think so. I don't know how many people there are now in the world.
Would you define the Jewish people in the world as many as the stars?
No.
Well, no, not quite, but
Not exactly, right?
no,
We're not one of the big nations.
no, that's true.
To say it in a British way, how do you say under? Okay. Now,
Yeah.
basically, so what Avram says,
He put his trust in the Lord, and then
and then he reckoned it to its merit. Now, there's two options of reading it. Who is the reckoning the merit? But the important is it God that gives Avram the merit, or is it Avram that gives God the merit? But the most important thing is, why is it so important to say that Avram put his trust in God? I mean, why not? I mean, it's God. I mean, if God comes to you and promises you, I don't know, $1 million, you wouldn't trust him?
I mean,
But that's not the point of the story, right?
Okay.
Like the question you ask, why is it important that it's stated? I feel like that's
Exactly.
more. Yeah. It's important because that's like the whole point of this story. I think is like at a basic level, appreciating like Abraham's blind trust in God and showing that God is like all powerful.
So you're saying that yes, you say that Avram was a blind follower?
It's not blind. I feel like is a like diminutive word for it, but like yeah, basically that Abraham puts his faith in God, even though there's no like tangibility. He can't
I don't
touch
think
any.
completely blind, because he does challenge God. He complains that God didn't fulfill his promise, and God has to like give him his faith back every time. You know what I'm saying?
It's not blind as in he's doing it without questioning or pushing. It's blind because there's nothing to hold on to. That's what I mean by blind. Like he doesn't have a statue. He doesn't have a burning bush. He doesn't have like it's yeah.
But it's even worse. God promised him something 30 years ago. And basically he's just repeating his promise.
Mm-hmm.
But this promise seems even more like unimaginable, like having as many offspring as the stars, like an infinity of offspring, and then like Abraham just like buys it. It seems strange.
So you're saying that God tricked Avram, gave him a good show.
Yeah, kind of. Also on Avram's part, it's just like strange that he would say like, okay, yeah, I believe you. Like, offspring as many as the stars, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep going. Keep reading.
Then he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to assign this
Chasdim.
land. How do you say it?
In Hebrew you say chasdim.
Chasdim.
Chasdim, but I don't know. Chasdim, sorry.
I brought you out from Ur of the Chasdim to assign this land to you as a possession. And he said, O Lord God, how shall I know that I am to possess it?
Now, how do you understand verse 8 now?
Mm-hmm. What's the question?
How do you understand verse 8? What's strange about it?
How shall I know?
Like he's sort of like questioning like the I guess the legitimacy of like the last like God granting it to him. Like what is it? Like sure, like you say it's mine, but how do I really know? Like what are the other indicators? Right? So it's like he's not just following blindly. He's sort of
So
challenging him a bit.
what is it to get juxtaposed? Comparing to, yeah.
Like, are you saying, like, comparing it to the last sentence, like to even to pasuk 6?
Exactly.
Yeah, like he put his trust in God, but he's like asking this question. So it's like,
And why here doesn't he put his trust in God? I mean, these are two psukim away.
yeah.
You understand that the Torah didn't do this by chance.
Mm-hmm.
On verse 6, it says he puts his trust in God, and the trust is about his offspring.
Yeah,
Here,
so it's two different, I guess.
and here he says, how shall I know? What do you mean, how shall you know? I promised you. I'm God. I promised you. What's the question? You understand the question?
Yeah.
Now it's clearly, this is not chance. This is clearly something the Bible intended you to see. It gives you this feeling before of overtrust, of trust that you feel is not necessary. It's not really necessary to say that Avram trusts God. Who wouldn't? And then you say no, he trusted even though for 30 years he didn't fulfill his promise. But now he says, I'm going to give you the land. Okay, just remember, the first part until 6 is talking about offsprings, right? From 7 onwards, we're talking about the land. So there are basically two promises. One promise is the offsprings, the other promise is the land. Okay, if you want the nation and the land. Israel and the Jewish people. Now, in the first part, he trusts in God, even though God hasn't given him an offspring all these years. And he's already about to die. He's about 100 years old. And Sarai is very old. Not very big chances of having children. But still, he trusts in God. And then, after God promises him that I will give the land to conquer, suddenly on that he says, how shall I know that I will conquer? You understand the paradox?
Yeah.
Okay? Let's leave it to be continued.
Okay.
Okay, you have time to think about it for next week. So basically, unless we find out something, who was it that said she couldn't?
Talia.
Taya. So if not the problem with Taya, we are doing this same next year.
Can I ask you a question, Udi?
Yeah.
Do you think there's a Sugia here? Like what? Like
I think it's the macro Sugia.
okay.
It's the Sugia of Sugyot. It's sort of, that's why I said I'm going here to zoom out so we can get a bigger perspective on the whole meaning of what does it mean to be Jewish, and from then to understand what's the way we do it with Sugyot. But I thought we need to do sort of a bigger, a panoramic view after we did a lot of details over the year.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. See you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Udi.
Thank you. Bye.
Guys, it's so good to see all your faces. I feel like I'm back on kivunim.
I miss you guys so much.
Udi, get some sleep. It's late.
It's okay. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I'll leave. You can leave. You can stay in the. I can leave without. You can still stay on.